hearing is being live streamed and also being recorded. Would also request anybody in the room who has any type of electronic communication device, if you'd please put it on silent or vibrate. We would appreciate that courtesy. And my name's Dan Vogler. I serve as chairman of the Board of Elections, also chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. My colleague, Commissioner Dan Kennedy, is to my right, and on the far left is of the table is Commissioner Chris Sonata. The other two gentlemen at the front table are Tim Germani, the Lawrence County Director of Voter Services, and the County Solicitor, Attorney Jason Medora. I'll also note for the record that this hearing was appropriately advertised in accordance with the Sunshine Law, that the advertisement did appear, I believe, on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Well, to establish a quorum, could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sonato?
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Here.
Commissioner Vogler?
Here. Let me note that this is a hearing based upon challenges that were made to the registration, voter registration of 52 individuals. This is separate from an actual formal meeting of this board. The board is actually currently in recess. We last met on Monday of this week, the day before Election Day, and we, at the end of that meeting, recessed the board to the call of the chair. This hearing is separate from that. So when we conclude today, we will adjourn this hearing, but the board itself will continue to be in that mode of recess, if you will. That being said, there are agendas, I believe, available. Anybody
Yes.
wishes to pick up an agenda. And in consultation with the solicitor, as you'll see here for public comment, since this is a hearing where we will be taking public testimony as it relates specifically to the challenges, at that point, that will be interpreted as individuals' public comment. And what we will do after we do a couple more housekeeping items is, and I assume, Solicitor, will you administer the oath?
Yes.
We will, anyone wishing to testify, we will swear them in as a group, I assume.
Yeah.
We won't do one each one separately. Right. We'll get to that in just a moment. So that will be the public comment, if you will. And although I will also note that prior to adjournment of the hearing, out of respect for people's right to speak, we'll have an opportunity for public comment then as well. Item D is approval of the minutes. However, quite honestly, that is something that needs to wait until the board actually sits as the Board of Elections for purposes of conducting business. So I'm assuming we'll just forego this, or should I have a motion to table? What would your recommendation?
You can forego.
We can forego.
Yes.
Okay. So when we do reconvene as the board for a meeting, we'll have these minutes listed at that time. We have another item here for election director's report. Mr. Germani, is there anything over and above what we're here to discuss today? Anything else you need to
No,
talk
sir.
about? Okay, thank you. So that takes us to new business. And before, actually, in fairness to my two colleagues, excuse me, let me see if the other two members of the Board of Elections have any comments they wish to make. Commissioner Kennedy?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sonata?
Nothing at this time as well.
Thank you both very much. So that takes us down to new business, and as noted, on Friday of last week, which would have been November 1 of 2024, Mrs. Carrie Hahn, who is a resident of Wellington Township, Lawrence County, submitted 52 challenges to individuals based upon their voter registration. These are folks that reside out of the country and are registered for what are known as federal elections. And by the way, gentlemen, if I misspeak or if I omit something, please jump in right away and interrupt me. The challenge was filed in a timely manner, and my understanding of the law is that this board had within a 7-day period to convene this hearing for consideration of those challenges. During the past week, notwithstanding all of the other work that our elections office had to do in terms of Tuesday's election, the Voter Services Office investigated the status of the 52 individuals whose registrations have been challenged. And in just a few moments, we will ask the elections director to provide us with an update on the findings that his office has come up with relative to those, the status of those 52 registrations. We will, prior to that, both he and the solicitor will enter into the record documentation, the documents that we will need to consider as part of our decision-making process. So the solicitor and the elections director will provide us with exhibits that will be part of the record. Then Mr. Germaini will offer his information to us as to what steps they have taken since the challenges have been filed. The individual who made the challenge at that point would be, if she so chooses, would be welcome to ask questions of either Mr. Germaini or the solicitor. Then the individual who made the challenge is welcome, if she so chooses, to offer testimony. And then we will open it up to any other individual who wishes to offer testimony as it relates to this hearing. Once we have heard all of the testimony, we will ask the Voter Services Office if they have reached a conclusion that enables them to perhaps make a recommendation to the board as it relates to the challenges. And we would reserve the right as a board, if we need to, enter into consultation and deliberation with the solicitor if that's necessary. At that point, we would briefly recess for that purpose if it again is necessary. And then at the end of this hearing, our expectation is that we will render a decision. Counselor, have I overlooked anything?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So what I would request at this time is for Mr. Germaini and or Attorney Medor to offer any documentation into evidence as far as any exhibits that they would wish to enter into the record. Do we need to swear in Mr. Germaini?
Yes, we need to swear everyone in. We should probably do that now.
And are you able to do that,
Yes.
Counselor? I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So anyone that plans on testifying or making comments at this hearing, including anyone participating by Zoom, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And let me note too that for those of you who have just taken that oath, if during the course of this hearing you change your mind and decide not to testify, that's fine. Or if someone perhaps who did not take the oath and perhaps partway through changes their mind and wishes to testify, we're still able to do that.
Absolutely.
We would swear them in at that point.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me then ask Mr. Germaini and or Solicitor Medor what exhibits you wish to enter into the record.
Okay, so for housekeeping purposes, we are going to start with the 52 challenges that were issued by Carrie Hahn of 994 Indian Run Road, Bullhead, PA 16156. on November 1st, 2024 at approximately 4:13 p.m. The challenges that were made were based on the fact that the applicants were not registered to vote and therefore not eligible to vote in Pennsylvania. There are 52 challenges made. If the commissioners choose, I could individually read each challenged voter, but if that's not necessary, I will not go through that at this time.
They are part of the record and anybody's welcome to see them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I would have no problem foregoing reading each name into the record unless my colleagues wish to.
I'm fine with that.
So I would like to collectively refer to the challenges as hearing exhibit 1. Hearing exhibit 2 would be the Newcastle News legal ad of Wednesday, November 6, 2024, advertising this hearing date. The next would be articles of correspondence received by the commissioner's office, by the election board following the challenges that were made. The first being from the U.S. Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, R. Tamar Hagler, Chief Voting Section of the U.S. Department of Justice, correspondence from November 4th, 2004. Next would be a letter from PA Dems, November 4th, 2024, signed by Alex A. Pena, Paul Boas, and Matt Mangino. And then lastly would be November 3rd, 2024 correspondence from the ACLU, Witold Walczak, Legal Director, and Ari Savitsky, Senior Staff Attorney, Voting Rights Project. That would be referred to as Hearing Exhibit 5. Now I'd ask Mr. Germaini and or Ms. Kite to discuss their investigation, and then we could enter into evidence the contents of their investigation.
And for the record, of course, we've introduced Mr. Germaini. Susan Kite is with us, and she is the, correct me if I'm wrong, Deputy Director of the Office of Voter Services. And if Ms. Kite, needs to speak, Counselor, I'm assuming she would need to come up to the microphone.
That's correct. And in fact, anyone in the commissioner's hearing room that plans on speaking will need to come to that table and sit in that chair so it can be picked up both by the YouTube recording and also to be seen by the individuals participating by Zoom.
Thank you, Counselor. So at this point, we would request that Mr. Germaini and or Ms. Kite offer to the board information they would wish to share with us regarding the filing of the challenges, verifying again that they were filed in a timely manner and that the necessary paperwork relative to those challenges was appropriately filed. And then the results of the investigation that you and your staff have undertaken, so that we can enter that into the record, please. Thank you.
Yes. On filed properly in timely manner, like you said, on the 1st of November at approximately 4:13. She paid the fee for each challenge, which was $10 for the 52. We examined everybody that she had challenged, and I have their voter record and their voter absentee ballot request here at hand, and I found no mishaps or anything. Everybody that she challenged is registered in the SURE database with the state with no problem.
Thank you. Do you have anything else to add relative to your findings at this time?
No, sir, just that everybody is legitimate in the SURE system and is a registered voter.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is see if my colleagues have questions of either Mr. Germaini or Ms. Kite, and then if Mrs. Hahn would like to ask questions of these folks, we'll open it for that. Then we'll allow for your testimony. But at this point, I'll start with Commissioner Kennedy to see if he has any questions.
Qualified.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanada.
No questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So once again, just so I have a clear understanding, challenges that were made for these 52 individuals specific to their voter registration status. Is that correct?
That's correct to me from the challenge that was stated.
Okay. And your investigation found that all 52 of these folks are appropriately, currently, and legally registered. And am I to understand that their status is somewhat unique in that because of where they live, they are only able to vote in what are known as the federal elections?
That's correct.
Does that mean that in this most recent election, the ballot that they would have received would have only included United States President, United States Senate, and United States Congress / House of Representatives?
Correct.
Thank you. Mrs. Hahn, do you have any questions for excuse me.
Well, before we begin, Commissioner, I would just like to put into evidence any documentation substantiating the testimony provided by Mr. Germaini, which would be the voter registration and absentee ballot request of each challenged individual, and also the SURE database printout of each challenged individual. And we could collectively refer to those documents as Exhibit 6.
Thank you, and I'm assuming my colleagues have no objection to that. Thank you. That being said, at this point, we could ask if Mrs. Hahn wishes to pose any questions to Mr. Germaini and or Ms. Kite.
That's correct.
If you wish, and as the counselor noted, if you'd be kind enough to have a seat at the table, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for providing this opportunity to present this challenge. I would also like to thank everyone that's attending. I'm sure a lot of them are at a different time zone, and this may be very early, so I apologize. Thank you for attending though. I guess just a couple housekeeping that I would like to address, just to make sure that the individuals who are on the screen are also recorded in the meeting minutes. And getting to another point, according to the code, this should also be transcribed. Is that correct?
The hearing is being recorded both on the Zoom and on the YouTube, and in speaking with our court stenographers can be transcribed for any appeal purposes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And could you please identify yourself for the record?
Certainly, I'm Carrie Hahn, Wilmington Township 1. I I have to first begin by making some formal objections. The counselor entered into the record several documents that I was not provided before the hearing. So I cannot, and I have not read or seen any of them, so it's impossible for me to make any comment or rebuttal to any of the statements made there. And I have a question about one of the records that Mr. Giannini has said, as far as the registration and absentee. Is that this packet that you had provided me?
Yes.
So this is a public record you're stating?
Mhm.
I would urge the board caution them. There is private, confidential information here that I should not be seeing. So I would recommend to the board that you redact certain information. And you have my honest, I would swear I would never share any of this information. And so I would begin, I think I need to do some background as far as the process that I experienced. Well, let me first also just say thank you to you all for election day. I was here all day long watching the whole process, and you do an excellent job. It was really smooth and seamless. It's very well run and organized. So I appreciate you and the entire staff for all your time, because I know that was a long, difficult day. But as far as my challenge, I spoke to Mr. Giannini 10 days ago and had asked if the county had any policy and procedure in place on top of the state law, federal law, is to file these petitions or challenges. And I was initially told no, there was no policy. Mr. Giannini was not even aware of the right for the challenge. And then on Friday, when I filed them, we had a great deal of pushback. And again, I just need to record this for the record. We were initially told that I needed to file this with the court, and that was incorrect, and I did challenge that, and I'm thankful for the pathonetary for coming down and helping lead through that. After a lot of back and forth and debate, we were also told that the challenges could only be submitted by individuals who resided in the municipality where these individuals, and I'm pointing to the 52 applicants. In the end, the county did finally accept the challenges, and as Mr. Giannini said, accepted the payment for them. I want to make clear to all of the challengees who are here today is that I'm not questioning whether or not you have the right to vote. I am only challenging whether or not the Board of Elections and our voter services should be entering these registrants into our SURE system. There are 2 federal laws that govern these overseas ballots and the registration process. The first is the HAVA, which is the Help America Vote Act, and that was passed in 2002. And that required that the state provide a single system across the state for individuals to be registered. This 2000 election, where there was also a lot of election challenges and questions about it. So that was the purpose of that law, so that people who were dual citizens did have the ability to register and vote in election if they were overseas. The second federal act is referred to as UOCAVA. What it stands for again, but that also requires, and it was initially passed in 1986 and then amended in 2010, and that was referred to as the MOVE Act, and that established a new registration and absentee procedure for our overseas voters. And part of that procedure requires that that the application is both a registration form and an absentee ballot. So there's two things that form does. It provides an opportunity for them to register and provide the necessary information for the board, or any board really, across the country to make sure that these are eligible voters. And there are requirements for that. It also requires that any applications that are received by our state officials, that they must be submitted no less than 30 days before the election. And they are, in my review of the 52 registrants, there are at least 11 who have missed that deadline. And then speaking of the packet that I received, my question is, so this is the application form, is that correct? So that's the registration and absentee ballot. Okay.
That's you're correct.
And then the second portion that I received for most of the challenges is looks like this is a
Screenshot from
and
Shore.
from the Shore system.
Mhm.
Okay. So we did not read, or the solicitor did not read into the record the names of all the individuals. And I need to add that there are 1, 2, 3 individuals where I did not receive any information at all. And I appreciate very much that the county immediately turned over this information, so at least I could see a little bit more detail on the voters. The initial complaint that I filed has very little information. There's no full birth dates. There's only the address where they're requesting to vote at. On Monday, when we were here for the election board meeting and we first brought this subject up, I had no idea what party any of these people were. It was not about a partisan issue at all. It's my concern over how our election process is being handled for our overseas ballots. And again, this is only overseas and the federal checkbox. So these are federal non-uniformed individuals, so no military individuals ballots have been challenged at all. But I had no idea. This was not a partisan issue when I filed it at all. I can tell you now there is a heavily weighted, for the applications that I have, it is heavily weighted in the Democrat favor. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals where I only have a partial. I think I only see most of those that I have partials. I was only seeing the screenshot from the state church system that the county has access to, but the public does not have access to. Since you're providing this today. And so I don't have the applications for those individuals, and I cannot see what date they applied for the application. And one more note, I'm very involved in the Lawrence County Republican Committee, and we had participated in a mail-in ballot chasing program where we obtained a list of people who had requested a mail-in ballot through the state system. And we just sent them a letter explaining, trying to give them a little more detail on, what they could do with their mail-in ballot. We have, at this point, have gotten a lot of those letters back, which is concerning for me because we use the same data that you used to send them, the mail-in ballot. But 5 of those, the 52 that I have challenged, 5 of those also apparently requested a mail-in ballot. And I guess I can't figure out what the discrepancy would be that they are also on the mail-in ballot list and on the overseas list. So maybe the county could clarify or give me an idea of why that might be happening.
Susie, do you have anything to
Some
say?
of them, I had
Okay,
several,
So hold on one second. So first of all, this does not need to be, it will be up to the election board to determine how much actual information providing. This is a challenge that's being made by Ms. Hahn. So it's her evidence to produce. It's not really instructional on how these individuals are to vote, how information is entered into the church system, but it would be the leeway that the election board decides to provide information at this moment. But the sole purpose of today is to make a determination on the challenges that Mrs. Hahn made on 52 voters that say the applicant is not registered to vote and therefore is not eligible to vote in Pennsylvania. So, but if you do choose to have Ms. Kite or Mr. Giovanni answer any of those questions, I need Ms. Kite to come up into the camera view for recordation purposes.
On this specific question, I don't have an objection to this type offering an answer, but I'll see what my 2 colleagues have to say. I'm fine with that. Yeah. Chris?
That'd be fine. It'd be okay if she just comes and sits where I am.
Certainly. And for all of our benefits, could you repeat the question, please?
So my question would be whether the voter services office could just provide any insight as to why there would be some crossover but not complete crossover.
I know I had a few people, both military and overseas, who applied for a regular mail-in ballot application, either mostly online or through an application. When I see that their address is in a different country, or it was a mail-in, and I could see that he had military, I treat those a little bit differently. I put them on a military envelope. That usually expedites them getting it. So that's why they would be on a mail-in. And they actually would mail in, but it was military. So it was handled differently. If that makes sense. When I see that somebody is in another country, I'm like, well, that's probably a federal voter. So, yeah, I don't know if maybe they're confused. I don't know if they just wanted to do a mail-in in their ballot.
Is it safe to assume that there would not be a duplication? In other words,
Correct.
okay, you make certain that
Yeah, you can't do it if you put in another one. The shore system's gonna tell you this person already has a ballot.
so the opportunity, whether intentional or unintentional, for a duplication is highly unlikely. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really the heart of what I was trying to get at. So I appreciate that. And as far as your comment that maybe they were just confused how to do it, I absolutely can see that. It's very confusing and not very clear, which is another reason why I'm doing this. There needs to be some changes for sure, and that has to come from the legislator. This is not your issue here. I've tried to make that clear several times, so thank you. So I would like to take a minute just to go through some more of these federal procedures under UOCAVA. And for the benefit of the audience and people who listen to this, because this is a new issue that I think the public was not aware of. So a federal voter, which is all the people that I've challenged, are U.S. citizens that reside overseas who are entitled to vote for federal offices under UOCAVA. And UOCAVA specifically states that federal voters are citizens who reside outside of the United States, except for their residency, but would be qualified to vote in the last place in which they were living before they left the United States. The UOCAVA Act, which is 52 U.S.C. Chapter 203, is the specific chapter I'm pointing to here, is titled Registration and Voting by Absentee Uniform Services. Voter overseas voters in elections for federal office. Again, that chapter is titled Registration. And these are the state's responsibilities. And there's a little bit of overlap, again, going back to the HAVA federal law, which provides and required all states to create a single system. This is why we have the SURE system for our state. So it's uniform across the state, and so that the public can obtain these records to, look at voter information. It's very helpful for people who are campaigning so that they understand who is on the voter roll, so that they can target those people to try to campaign, win them over to their positions. But because Lawrence County has not entered these registrants into the SURE system, we have no idea that these people were in our system and that we should be campaigning to them. State responsibility in general, each state shall permit uniform service voters and overseas voters to use absentee registration procedures and to vote by absentee ballot, that they accept and process with respect to any election for federal office, any otherwise valid voter registration application. And there are processes for registering applicants, and part of that is just making sure that they are eligible and that they are who they say they are. As many of us are aware, if we want to register to vote here, we have to come in and show our driver's license so that the county can verify we are who we say we are, and that information is checked. So we can't vote until we have been registered first. Again, the rights that UOCAVA provides for citizens overseas is that if you're a qualified voter protected by UOCAVA in elections for federal office, the state in which you are qualified to vote must permit you to register to vote, and then request an absentee ballot if a request is received by the 30th day before the election. The Department of State reaffirms this on their website. They also refer to relevant laws. And their website says the Federal Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act of 1986, UOCAVA, requires that states that, and territories allow military and overseas citizens to register and vote by absentee ballot. I think I provided you a copy of the form on Monday. I apologize, I didn't think to bring that again. But it mirrors everything in the packet. So there's a form and there's a box that the overseas voter has to check. And that's how we know and how they get categorized into this federal status that they are allowed to vote overseas. These individuals, they must, the checkbox says their intent to return to the United States is uncertain. They may come back, they may not. It's just uncertain. But this form is both a voter registration form and an application. So the first part of the process is that the states, through the HAVA and UOCAVA, must first register those people in our statewide SURE system. And my assertion again has been that the county is skipping over that step. Federal voters are only eligible to vote under UOCAVA and only eligible to vote in federal races. UOCAVA requires states to process valid voter registration applications from UOCAVA applicants. But it is my position that the county is violating the federal law by not doing what is required under the federal law, which is voter registration. And under state law, it is a felony to allow someone to vote who's not registered. So to resolve the eligibility issue, I'm just asking that the county should process these otherwise valid registration applications according to the federal law. There's no question that many of these people are going to be determined to be eligible. But unless they're properly registered, that the public has access to that voter information through our SURE system, they're not eligible to vote. And just as a small personal comment, I personally know one individual who most definitely would qualify as a dual citizen to vote here. He's a good person. I'm sure all the people here on this call are good people. I'm not accusing anyone here of doing anything unlawful. I just would like for them to be registered. I believe that is what the law requires. The HAVA standards are just minimum standards. That doesn't mean that the state can't impose their own or that our county can impose other standards to verify the voter registration information so that we know for certain in going forward in future elections that these people are registered properly and eligible to vote. oversight I have at this moment. There are some other procedural issues as far as this notice. According to our state code, the notice should be provided at least 48 hours, the notice of the canvas meeting by publicly posting a notice on its website. And I think that notice may have fallen short. It was published in the newspaper, but not on our website.
I didn't know who that. I talked to Bill, had it up on that.
I have a screenshot. I think it's good to get to that, so I guess if the board has any questions for me or anyone else.
Does that conclude your testimony?
Yes, I reserve the right for another public comment later.
So noted.
Thank you.
Before you step down, Commissioner Kennedy, any questions for Mrs. Vaughn?
The only question I have, Mrs. Hahn, you're saying that the county did not register these people correctly? Is that?
They're not in the publicly available SURE system data. So if you went into our voter rolls, which you can purchase through the state or by $10, the public can get $10 CD-ROM, which you'll notice on the counter. None of the 52 are on that registry, so the public can't see it. Now, the county did provide this screenshot that appears somewhere that the county has access to, but the public doesn't have access to this registration. I can't see this.
Correct, that's the way it's designed.
So the public can't see it, but
I can't even see it till I check on to look for federal voters. Like if I would put an individual's name into the SURE system and they're a federal voter, they won't come up at all until I check the box, look for federal voters. Then they'll come up. So
the public could do that also?
there's a reason why, and I don't know the reason why, but there's a reason why they are not on public access to voters. But that's the way it's been ever since I started working. That's why when I'd have to look up a voter, say somebody called or had an issue, I would be like, I couldn't find you. And they would say, well, I've been registered to vote all so many years. Then that's when I would go and click the federal, and then 9 times out of 10, I'll find them that way. And go, oh, you're a federal voter. And they're like, yeah, I am a federal voter. So that's why when we give public records out for absentee ballots, it also prints out for mail-in ballots. By law, we're to redact the federal voters off of those records.
So it's nothing the county did wrong?
No, sir. County did everything that it should do. We registered them accordingly. They're no different than registering anybody else, and they go through a HAVA check just like anybody else. There would be no way to send a ballot to an individual that's not registered. The system simply won't let you do it.
One more comment to your question, and why it's so important that they are registered in the public side of the SURE system is the public can't see any voter history of these individuals. I have no idea, as I said, until I received this, I had no idea what party they were registered with. I had no idea how many elections they voted in, how they voted. Did they vote by absentee previously, provisionally? none of that information is accessible to the public. And, you know, again, to my point, this needs to be corrected. And it's not, some of this is not the county's issue, but the public needs to be aware that there is a lack of transparency. And our federal legislatures have got to amend this and correct this, because there's potential. The system as it's set up right now is rife with opportunity for bad actors to potentially register when they're not certified or eligible. So again, part of this is just to bring this to public awareness. Again, I believe very strongly that HAVA and UCAVA require the county to register these people in the SURE system. And as I mentioned Monday, there are other counties who are doing this. They are entering their overseas voters into the SURE system, and they're publicly available. I mentioned Allegheny County on Monday. They didn't have any challenges because all of them were entered into the SURE system. I've since learned that there's actually 11 counties that are doing this. So there's no violation that the Board of Elections or Services would be making by entering them into the system. Nobody has challenged whether or not those counties have the right to do that, because a lot of individuals believe that this is what the federal requirement is. And the Department of State put out this directive just instructing that, well, they don't need to be registered. But you know, I have to bring up Loper Bright and the Chevron deference that the county can't just defer to the Department of State, because they're not liable. You are. You're liable for this, not the state. So just to finish your question, to address that.
Anything else, Mr. Kennedy? Nothing. Thank you. Mr. Sanada?
I have no questions.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question. How did you acquire this data?
It's publicly available.
Okay, because I mean, every voter here that you inquired about was registered, so you had to find it somewhere.
I did.
Okay.
I think it's kind of irrelevant, but it is
Okay.
publicly available. But what is publicly available is minimal. Pretty much everything that's on my challenges is what's available. That they registered to vote at an address that they previously had voted at. That's about it.
Before we move on, Counselor, anything on your end?
No, sir.
Thank you. Anything else, Mrs. Hahn, at this time? Thank you very kindly. What I will do at this point is ask if anyone in the room wishes to offer testimony, and then we will defer them joining us virtually. So is there anyone here physically wishing to provide testimony at this time? Counselor?
Yes,
Good morning, sir. Please.
thank
If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
you. My name is Paul Boaz. I'm an attorney for the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, the Lawrence County Democratic Party. I live at 216 Rose Point, Harlinsburg Road, Slippery Rock 16101. That's Slippery Rock Township, Lawrence County.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And you're in order.
I'm going to keep my comments brief. And that's because, as Mr. Germaini pointed out, all 52 of these persons are properly and validly registered to vote as federal voters in Lawrence County. It's crystal clear, based on a series of Pennsylvania court cases, that the person who makes this challenge, which in this case is this one, has the burden of coming forward with evidence in support of a challenge. She's failed to do that. Standing up, sitting here for half an hour, They're talking about how she disagrees with the way the law is administered. She disagrees with the law, and she thinks the county should do it a different way. Is not evidence in support of her claim, which is the only thing you have to consider, that these people are not registered. They are registered. They're registered to vote properly in Lawrence County for federal elections. The documents we've submitted to the court show that the law supports this. Ms. Hahn has done nothing, with all due respect, to meet her burden of proving the one thing she has to prove, that these 52 people are not registered. They are registered. Disagreeing with the law, saying it should be changed by Congress. That's all her right to say. Maybe she's right, but that has nothing to do with whether these people are registered. They are registered, notwithstanding the fact that Ms. Hahn disagrees with the law and the procedure. By her own admission, she stated over and over again that part of her challenge was to bring this to public awareness. That's fine, but you can bring something to public awareness without challenging the right of citizens of the United States and Lawrence County from voting in a federal election. Look at all these people who are here. For whatever reason, they had to leave this county for work, for military, for whatever purpose. But this is still their turn to vote. They get to vote, they register properly, and their vote should count. And I have a lot more things in my notes here to say, but I'm going to skip them because the documents we submitted supports the case. Our position. Ms. Hahn has failed to meet what is legally her burden to show that these people are not registered. They are registered, even though she doesn't like the way this county handles it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Before you step down, Counselor, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sanada, any questions for the witness?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy? Attorney Medora, anything before we excuse Mr. Bowler? Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else in the room at this time wishing to provide testimony? Please, state your name for the record.
My name is Lynn Ryan, and I reside in Pennsylvania, and I am the chairman of the Lawrence County Republican Committee. And this has absolutely nothing to do with party affiliation, as far as I'm concerned. They are not in the SURE system. They weren't in the SURE system on 11/4, so I don't know, where it's provided, but it's some hidden clue. I don't know. But as of 11/4, they were not registered in the SURE system. So I just question how people can vote in our elections that aren't registered in the state registry of voters. And, maybe it is something that needs to be corrected. Well, it's obviously something that needs to be corrected, but, our candidates can't actually work with these people and try to, entice their votes if we have no clue to who they are. My husband and I witnessed a woman when we voted in person, a voter that lives in the county, works in the county, pays property taxes in the county, and she was removed from the voter rolls because she didn't vote in 2 federal elections. I have absolutely no problems with cleaning up our voter rolls, but how do we know that these people have voted consecutively in the federal elections? Should they be removed if they don't? How do we know to remove them? And, it just seems like there's rules for some people and not for others. And we're disenfranchising our local tax-paying citizens from the same rights that we're affording overseas people who haven't lived here, some of them for decades. So that's a question that I have. And, this wizard, this absentee ballot wizard, that is how they get their vote or apply for these votes or whatever, that is not part of the SURE system, or it doesn't count there, that it's not exposed in the SURE system. And also, I just would like to know how we find their record of voting, because they're not in the system. So how do we know that they voted consistently in all of our federal elections? So those are my questions, concerns. And you know what, you guys do a great job. It's not, well, no, it's not some type of punitive thing, but it's like, I bet you 99.9% of the people in this county don't know that this is going on. And it has absolutely when we started all of this, looking into this, it has absolutely nothing to do with party affiliation. We've had open borders, let's just let everybody come into our country, Now it's, okay, how do we vet who is voting in our elections? And isn't it ironic that they picked Wisconsin and Pennsylvania to do this?
What does this have to do with this hearing you're having today? I thought the actual hearings to see whether these ballots are legitimate or not. Open borders in Wisconsin has nothing to do with what's happening in this hearing.
Okay, well, let's get back to it. They're not in the shore system. They're not registered voters, and you have to be registered in the state of Pennsylvania in order to vote. That's my argument.
In fact, they are. They are all registered.
So how do we find this list? Because they're not in the list.
That's something that the shore system's gonna, that's the
Yeah.
way we've had to do it.
So how do we as party chairs or community, or candidates, how do you get this list? How do you get access to the list?
Yeah, that's the way the shore system up. We follow what we have to do from the guidelines that we're giving as well.
So you all have the list, but we're not entitled to the list.
Yeah.
So it's not made public.
Yeah, and there's probably a reason why.
So why does that
We're starting to deviate a little bit from the purpose of the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is for this board to take testimony from anyone who chooses to testify. It is not a press conference. It's not a question and answer session. We did allow the person who made the challenge to offer the opportunity for questions, but we're here to hear your testimony, not to get into a debate with anybody. So if you could limit your testimony to the issue at hand, we would appreciate that.
Okay, so my concern is we are allowing 52 people to vote that the public does not have access to their voting record or that they're registered. Allegheny County, there's 11 counties that have them registered. Why are they registering them when we are not? I have that question. And my concern is there are 52 people, and I don't care who they are, I feel bad that, if they are feeling disenfranchised by this, but so are a lot of local voters that didn't get the same weren't afforded the same opportunities to vote. So I'm just questioning why we don't have them registered to vote, and they're voting in our elections, federal or otherwise.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, do you have any questions for the witness?
None.
Mr. Sonata, counselor, anything?
No, sir.
Thank you. Does that conclude your testimony? Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. Does anyone else in the room wish to offer testimony? I'll ask one more time. Anyone else in the room wish to offer testimony?
It's just that.
Now, what I'd like to do, since you have testified, I'd like to give the folks on the screen that opportunity, and then we'll come back to you. So we have, as best I can tell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people on the screen. 9? Oh, there, somebody just came on. Oh, okay. The folks that are joining us virtually, if you desire to present testimony, could you maybe wave your hand? Yes, I see a gentleman with, can you see that?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes. Could you state your name, please?
My name is John Bain.
Yeah.
I have been registered to vote in Lawrence County since May of 1978. And I continue to be registered to vote in Lawrence County.
And sir, forgive my interruption. Would you be kind enough to spell your last name?
I will spell that as B Bravo, E Echo, H Hotel, M Mike.
Thank you very kindly, and we'll note again, you've been sworn, and you're in order to present your testimony.
Thank you very much. Yes, I would maintain that I'm not available to persons such as Mrs. Ryan because it is a matter of my personal security of data. I am not affiliated with the Republicans. I am not affiliated with the Democrats. I'm not registered as an independent either. I vote as my conscience dictates. But that is a matter for me, my conscience, and my participation in federal elections. I do reside out with the United States. My return to the United States is not certain. Let us say that a date of return is not certain, but I have been resident in the United States over the past several decades for periods of time, paid taxes as appropriately, voted as I have been able to. I think Carrie Hahn, who is a family friend, may have been referring to me possibly, but she said she knows one of the individuals among the 52 personally. And I appreciate that within the remit of Carrie's duties within the Lawrence County Republican Party, she is pursuing only what is deemed necessary by that group. I think the suggestion that there has been impropriety, that I may not be actually registered to vote, is an incorrect assumption. And I believe that's probably sufficient. I believe sufficient evidence demonstrated my registration. I have had occasion to re-register, I think, within the past couple of decades because of a lapse in voter activity. I could be wrong. I certainly know that I have had a long-standing relationship with Tim Germani and Susan Kites and the late Ed Allison over the last few decades. And there's never been a question about my having been registered to vote within Pennsylvania, within Lawrence County, in federal elections. That is enough for me just now. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. I appreciate your testimony. If you'll allow me, though, I do need to see if my colleagues or Solicitor Madore have any questions, and I'll start with Commissioner Kennedy.
No, I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Sonata? Thank you, Counselor.
No, sir.
We appreciate your offering your testimony, sir. Thank you.
I thank you for your time again.
Yes, sir. Once again, for folks on the screen, if you could maybe wave your hand, I'll do my best. I see two of you. One, let me start with, I can't read your last name, so forgive me. Could one of you just start? Please.
Hi, I'll start. My name is Mary Carosa, and I would just like to say that when I had a lapse in my voting record, and when I registered to vote in Pennsylvania in the early 2010s, I was asked to supply evidence of a former Pennsylvania driver's license, which I did, as proof of my identity. I just wanted to submit that information because I think that that's an important piece of information. I also have a clarifying question about why the public should have access to who's registered to vote in Pennsylvania. I know this is a time for testimony, but I am actually concerned that the public has access or could or should have access to my voting record, my personal decisions. on how I wish to participate in civic life. I find this very concerning. I would also like to put forward that as a person who is only eligible to vote in national elections, that I'm not on a communal mailing list is perhaps due to the fact that I am not eligible for participating in communal elections. But back to my question, I would really appreciate it if somebody could clarify that.
Counselor, again, we're trying to be very careful about Q&A, but is that a legitimate part of this testimony?
Well, it's not a legitimate part of the testimony, and ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on that subject. All I can say is that there are certain records that are deemed public by the state and federal legislature, and I don't know the reasoning behind it, but there are voter records that are available to the public for small fees.
Can I?
And within a minute, Counselor, ma'am, you may continue.
That's all I wanted to say, that when I first registered to vote absentee, I was required to supply a driver's license number from Pennsylvania, and which I did.
Thank you for noting that. Thank you for your testimony. I'll see if Commissioner Sanada has any questions. No, Commissioner Kennedy?
No.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll be with you in just a second. Ma'am, thank you very much. Forgive me, we did get your name for the record. I'm not sure if we did.
Yes.
We did. Okay, thank you. Would someone else care to raise their hand? Gentlemen, and the gentleman with a white beard, I'm sorry, forgive me.
Yeah, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Thompson, thank you.
Yes, this is Carl Thompson, Carl with a C. Just wanted to make it brief. I registered sent off my registration on the 20th of July, so I beat that 30-day by a long mile. And of course, I sent off the ballot beginning of October, which is neither here nor there. But I simply filled out the registration information, provided the details as by law, and I've still got my way out of date driver's license from that address in Elwood City, PA. The only thing I would suggest is for the question that really isn't neither here nor there is a GDPR, at least in our area, in my area, and in Europe, that may be prohibiting why that detail might not be included on that particular public list that she's requesting. I don't know if that would be the reason why it's not being included, but that's just offering that up as a possibility. But beyond that, yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that I certainly did what I was supposed to do in a timely manner.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sanada, a question for Mr. Thompson? Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy had to leave the room. Counselor?
Yeah, that's okay. He didn't have any questions for Mr. Thompson.
Okay, thank you.
He said we can continue with the testimony.
We don't need to recess?
We do not.
Okay.
Mr. Judge would be next.
Thank you. Mr. Judge, good morning.
Good evening here, but good morning to you. Thank you for having us here. I appreciate this very much. I don't know whether this challenge is disingenuous or just misplaced, but my feeling is the issues with the two speakers, whose names I can't remember at the moment, but I think their concern may be justified, but it's about the SURE system. Well, they are welcome to have a public campaign or a press conference. They're welcome to take this to federal court. I don't understand why 52 citizens of Pennsylvania are being challenged when we've done everything we were supposed to do. Lawrence County has done everything they're supposed to do, as far as I can tell. I feel that this is a bit of, again, they said they didn't mean it, but I feel very disenfranchised right now for what I am not sure. I mean, if there's documents, I have them to provide, but we haven't been asked specifically, the 52 of us, about that. I don't know, do you want evidence that I am who I say I am? Or is this more generally about whether they have the right to make this challenge? I don't know, but the whole 30 minutes was about whether the SURE system is being adequately and correctly followed. And that's not an issue for any of the 52 of us. So I'm a little bit flabbergasted on why. I appreciate that you invited us here, but why any of us have to be here at this hour, I'm a little bit confused about. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Judge, thank you, and bear with me one moment. Could you also state your first name for the record?
Yes, Patrick, with Patrick, and then Judge, Judge.
Thank you, sir. I'll see if Commissioner Sanada has any questions. Counselor?
Next would be.
But before,
No
questions. And before we go to the next witness, bear with me one second. Thank you. We do have another person wishing to testify.
Yeah, Mary Trandak.
Ms. Trandak, good morning, good evening or good morning?
Good morning. Yeah, I guess I'll just state that my name is Mary Trandak. I've been a registered voter in Newcastle since 2008. I could also provide an expired driver's license. I share a lot of the concerns that other people have expressed about my personal information and party affiliation and voting record being publicly available. And so just in connection with that, I think it would only be appropriate to ask if Ms. Hahn has paid for these challenges out of her own pocket, or if she's receiving funding from the Republican Party or any other kind of outside advocacy group.
I assume that when the payment was made, was it made by a check or cash?
By check, sir.
And do you recall the name on the check?
It was carrying on.
The person making the challenge
Correct.
appeared to be from the person's personal checking account, to the
Correct,
best of your knowledge.
Yes.
I hope you could hear that response.
I could hear it. I guess I'd just like to congratulate Ms. Hahn on having $520 to spend on this. That's all.
Does that conclude your testimony?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. I'll see if my colleagues have questions of you. Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Sanada? Counselor?
No,
No questions for Ms. Trandak?
You asked.
Thank you, ma'am. And we're going to see if anyone else wishes, who is virtual, wishes to testify. Yes, someone's hand went
That's
up.
Ms. Carosa again.
Oh,
Yes, it's me. I simply wanted to clarify that I too sent off my registration and application for a absentee ballot in a timely fashion, well before the 30-day period.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So the only individuals left are Mr. Gabriel, Ms. Major, and Travis. If none of them choose to comment, then we would be done with the Zoom participants.
Thank you, Jason. So I'll ask one more time for the folks who have joined us virtually. Do any of you who have not yet testified care to offer a testimony at this time? Okay, thank you all. We appreciate your input this morning. Counselor, I think we had talked that we need to circle back for anyone else in the room at this time.
If you so choose.
Because I do know the counselor had his hand up at one point.
Yes.
And we will have to have you come back up, please.
This is really informational only in regard to what one of the out-of-town registrants said. who is concerned about the voting record being made public. I just want to say, what's available to the public is that you are registered and that you voted in elections. What's never available to the public is how you voted in those elections. So for those of you who are concerned, it may bother you that people know you're voting, but they don't know how you're voting. So that's the main thing that's kept from everybody, as it should be. I just wanted to allay some of their fears that how we vote might be the subject of public scrutiny, which it isn't.
Thank you, sir. So since, and before we move forward, I'll see if anyone else, and what I'll conclude with will be Mrs. Hahn, since she offered presented the challenge. Is anyone else in the room, whether you've spoken once or wish to speak for the first time, does anyone else wish to come back up or come up to offer testimony? Yes, ma'am, please.
I wasn't sworn in.
You were not sworn in?
Sworn in.
Go ahead.
Plan
Raise
on-
your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, so help you God? Okay, just go ahead and sit down and identify yourself, please.
My name is Paula Prentice. I'm from Mahoning Township, Lawrence County. You were asking for testimonies?
Asking for your testimony.
Concerning
Concerning the,
why it's important
concerning the
that-
challenge that is before
for
us.
52 individuals. And it's my testimony through my experience of running for supervisor in the township, dealing with, I was a worker at the polls for decades, whatever. I've helped with registering people, getting them to vote and things like that. And my testimony is it's very important, I hope, to the majority of people to ascertain eligibility for voting in our elections, one being U.S. citizenship. I don't know, and I have a lot of questions that I know this is not the time for, how you validate that a person is a U.S. citizen. You can't just use a driver's license because driver's licenses are being issued to people that are only residents and not legitimate U.S. citizens. So this challenge is valid. All I need to say.
Before you leave, Mr. Sonata, any questions for Mrs. Prentice?
No, but as far as driver's license in Pennsylvania, you have to be a citizen in order to get a driver's license.
I've heard otherwise, but thank you.
My knowledge.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy?
No question. I think there's.
Counselor, anything for
No,
the witness? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Prentice. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Do any other members here, and again, we'll allow Mrs. Hahn another opportunity. Yes, sir. We have someone on the screen. Do we know who it is, David?
Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I would like to clarify on the registration form, if I'm not mistaken, I was asked for my social security number. I see the nodding of that. I do remember that being the case. So that should be sufficient to provide to anybody that I'm a U.S. citizen. I do have a quick housekeeping question. Are we going to be notified that our votes have been counted properly, being that this is being put into question? Thank you.
Thank you. The process that we will be following this morning, when we conclude the testimony, the three of us can do essentially, we have a number of things that we can do in terms of our options. We can make a decision immediately on the challenge, whether we grant the challenge or deny the challenge. We can, I believe, Counselor, we are permitted to have an opportunity for deliberation and consultation with you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If the majority of the board wishes, it's possible that we could table this matter. That's one option. Don't know that we'll be doing that, but it is an option. Have I missed any options?
No, sir.
Thank you. I hope that answers your inquiry. Thank you. Anyone else, whether you are here virtually? Yes, ma'am, your hand is up, but I can't read your name, so maybe David can help. Raise your hand again, please, ma'am.
Ms. Major.
Ms. Major?
So sorry. Hello, my name is Corinne Mager.
Oh, Margaret, I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name.
Oh, it's really okay. It's Austrian. But I'm Corinne Elizabeth Morini from Elwood City, married Mager. And I can 100% provide proof that my social security number was requested on the form. I do not have a Pennsylvania driver's license anymore. They take it away in Austria. And so I have my birth certificate, I have a social security card. I can't provide a driver's license, but that shouldn't matter. And I have proof of where I lived prior, that is also on the form. And I assume at any moment someone could call me or email me if they question that form when I have submitted it. So I just want to put it out there that we can't fake it. And I am very put off by the women in the room who seem to be attacking us when we are registered to vote. The evidence was shown, and I would appreciate if no more attacks would be thrown our way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me ask my colleagues if they have any questions of you. Mr. Kennedy? No? Mr. Sonata? Mr. Attorney Medora?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your input. Are there any other individuals wishing to offer testimony at this time? Yes, ma'am, please. Oh, Counselor, could you swear the witness in?
Do you swear to tell the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Sheila Stigler, and I'm a resident of Elwood City. I just wanted to make one clarification that in the state of Pennsylvania, you can obtain a driver's license without being a United States citizen. I know this from personal experience. It was actually Lawrence County Court that had granted me custody of a suspect international victim of child trafficking. When that child turned 16 years old, that child was legally eligible and legally obtained a Pennsylvania driver's license. To date, he is not a U.S. citizen, and although he does now have a green card. But yes, it is possible for non-U.S. citizens in the state of Pennsylvania to legally obtain driver's license.
I appreciate the information. You are correct on that part. It's legal citizen. But I know, going back to the legislative time, there was legislation for like illegal people have a license that never passed in Pennsylvania. So backtrack on that. You are correct.
Any other questions for the witness? Mr. Kennedy? No, Mr. Counselor?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Yes, I saw a hand go up on the screen, but again, I apologize, I can't see your name.
Yeah, Mary Carosa, once again. I just want to clarify that the driver's license was to prove residence in Pennsylvania. The social security number is used to provide proof of citizenship.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions for the witness? Hearing none. Would anyone else care to offer testimony? What I'd like to do is see if Mrs. Hahn has any concluding remarks as it relates to the challenges that she has presented to us today, if you so desire.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
So first, I'll address the assertion that regarding privacy and whether or not these overseas individuals, that their names should be publicly available on the SURE system. The assertion that they should have privacy would really be an equal protection issue. That elevates it to a higher level. Their assertion was made that they should have somehow greater privacy protection than the rest of the tax-paying individuals who still live in the county and vote regularly. the federal law requires that all states have a uniform system. Ours is the SURE system. And I believe, and as I have asserted, I believe that information should be publicly available, as 11 other counties have made it available, that people can go into the SURE system and see that information. The state also requires that if I purchase a copy of the voter roll, I cannot share that publicly. It's against the law for me to do that. I have not done that. I will never do that. I would also, for the record, want to make clear that the solicitor did provide me with 3 documents that were submitted as evidence. I object to the Department of State making assertions that somehow my challenge is not permitted. The law clearly states I have the right to make these challenges. And I hope you would all agree, it's in our state law that I have the right to make this. I am exercising my right. I can't stress enough that I'm not questioning any of you who are testifying by overseas to this telecom. I'm not challenging whether or not you're real people. You're obviously, I mean, you're here. I did not question your eligibility. I didn't have the right to see it. I am only challenging the fact that the county must enter it into the SURE system. I know I have to close with, my final note is that, again, the records that I was provided by the county, I am missing any information from William Barbato, Jason Curing, Penelope Kuroglis, sorry if I butchered that. So I have no information for those registrants. I also did not receive an application from Travis Cameron. It's just not provided to me. I was only given a screenshot of the SURE system. Also David Cushman, Jennifer Garrett, Deborah Ostenswich, Gary Stevens, and Carl Thompson. I have that. That's what I'm saying, is that I have that SURE system screen we captured, but I cannot view the application, so I can't determine whether or not they timely filed their request for the absentee ballot. I just want clarification on that. And I once again I do directly challenge whether or not 11 people have the right to have their ballots counted, because the application was received after the deadline. Those people are David Baer, Amanda Borowick, Ariel Cooper, Maria DeSalvo, Emily Jermita, Roger Necht, Prachetas Prabhu, Nicholas Rabliati, Carolyn Spigliski, I'm so sorry for names, and John Workman. All of them, according to what I received from the county, their application date is less than 30 days. To my knowledge, those were not any of the people who spoke today, but I want to get that on the record. Thank you very much for your time.
And before you step aside, Commissioner Sanada, any final questions for Mrs. Hahn? Mr. Kennedy? Counselor?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hahn. I would like to ask my 2 colleagues what their wishes might be. As we discussed, we can make a decision at this point in time on the challenge. If you wish, the counselor has indicated that we are permitted to have a discussion with him in terms of deliberation and consultation. Am I correct?
Correct.
You do have the right to say we should table this if you wish to make such a motion. But I'll look to the two of you to see what your wishes might be at this time.
I'd like to have 5 minutes with your solicitor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sonata?
I'll agree to that.
Okay, so that you folks don't have to, we have this room right back here, so you folks don't have to leave. Why don't we declare a brief recess to allow us the opportunity to discuss this? And I'm sure some of you probably want to stretch. The restrooms, by the way, are out this door and make a left, and you can find the restroom. So we'll be back as soon as we possibly can. So we are currently in recess. Thank you. I'm sorry? Please, thank you.
You're great. You're great. Good, how are you?
for joining us. I want to thank you all for the businesslike manner in which everyone conducted themselves, and appreciate your patience. I know this was lengthy and tedious, but we want to make certain that everybody has the opportunity to have put across their perspectives and their points of view. That being said, we do have the challenge before us, the challenges, 52 challenges that are before us, and we've heard the testimony and reviewed the documents that have been entered into the record. That all being said, Counselor, are we at a point where I could entertain a motion?
Yes.
Thank you. Would one of my colleagues wish to make a motion? Mr. Sanada?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion based on the evidence that we've seen today, Mrs. Hahn's challenge, based on that 52 voters are not registered to vote. I'm going to recommend that we reject the challenge. Mrs. Hahn made many good points today, but this isn't the place for a lot of what she discussed. A lot of that needs to be dealt with by the United States Congress and the state legislature. Our goal today is to address the challenge of, are they registered to vote or are they not registered to vote? I think Mr. Germaini and Ms. Kite have shown that those 52 people are registered to vote legally in the county of Lawrence County in federal elections. So based on that evidence that I heard today, I'm going to make a motion that the petition be rejected for all 52 registered voters.
Thank you, Mr. Sanada. Would there be a second to that motion?
Being that Tim has done all his paperwork, I gotta second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I believe my colleagues could have an opportunity for any further comments. Is that correct, Councilor?
Just to be clear, the motion on the table is to deny the 52 challenges made by Carrie Hahn.
Thank you. And do you have any other comments, Mr. Kennedy? Mr. Sanada, any further comments?
No, and I just recommend that Mrs. Hahn take the concerns to the state legislature and to the United States Congress.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion on the floor that's been appropriately seconded. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sonato?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have an adjournment motion, please?
May I first make one comment? I just want to notify the board of my intent to appeal.
Thank you, ma'am. May I have a adjournment motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
So I think that we're off the record, but I notified you of the appeal. You need to segregate these ballots.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They right after the process.
Thank you.